Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Magical Tea Talks and Coffee too. My name is Valeri McLaughlin, intuitive heart healer, energy artist, and spiritual guide. I help people, light beings, tap into their heart center magic so that they can be guided more by their intuition and higher self as they live a life in their heart full with love, joy, happiness, creating their own magic.
Hello, everybody, and I'm Cindy Hernandez. I'm a licensed massage therapist, NLP practitioner, and immigrant identity coach. So I help people from cultural backgrounds release barriers that are holding them back from creating that life that they want, releasing things that have been instilled in our mindset, in our body, in all the things, and helping you release them.
Welcome. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good today. How about you, Val?
Uh, I'm okay today. Not gonna lie, not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm just okay. And it's okay to be
Okay.
okay. Over the weekend I found a song. I posted in my group. It's one new Alicia Keys song. It says it's called Author of Forever. And it pretty much like gives you permission to be okay wherever you're at. The song, it's a good song. I've been listening to that one over and over again. Her new album's actually pretty good. It's a lot of inspiration mixed in with things. So always need to do that. And I am so looking forward to our session on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so today we wanted to talk a little bit about cord cutting. And it's really about releasing a lot of things and just releasing that attachment to energetically.
Yeah. Whoops. We are energetically connected to things all the time. We to things, to people, to places. You ever get that sudden urge where you feel like you have to go somewhere? Like, I have to go to this spot, and you're like, I don't know, I just feel drawn to go to that spot, and that's that energetic pull to connect to that spot, for whether you are being guided there or you start to like maybe remember it because it was something that you used to do. And once that remembrance happened, that connection, reconnect it, and you are like being pulled back to that place. And then, we're energetically connected to each other. Like right now, we're energetically connected to each other. So,
Yeah.
and for everybody feels that connection differently too. And the connection's different depending on, I'm going to say, the intention behind the connection, because there can be energetic intentions, whether they are really intentional or not.
It's actually pretty deep. Yeah. It's true. That is really true. You just like blew me off because now I'm like going in another place. It's really, yeah, definitely the person's intention too, your intention, the other person's intention, and how that connects us in a certain way.
Yeah. So like, you walk into a room and you see this person across the room and they look happy and they look like joyful, and you're like, man, I want that. Like, and there's no like, and there's no intention like you intentionally want to go like grab that person's energy, but as soon as you make that, it's like, okay, let's go connect to that, and let's go feel that, let's go bring that in, let's go have that. And that's one of those intentional unintentional attachments that, chords that we have. And then, there's the there's still those unintentional, like maybe you had a breakup and you're like, oh, man, I hope this person never finds happiness. You're throwing a cord, attaching yourself to that person. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the energy that you're actually sending that person.
Yes, and another thing I wanted to add to that is like, I hear this a lot, is like, oh, your karma is gonna be so bad because you did this to me. Like, whatever the case may be. So now you've already connected yourself to that cord and you're throwing it at that person. What happens to that person after you guys broke up, really has nothing to do with you. And for you to say, oh, your karma is going to be really bad, you're already attaching yourself to something that you want to happen.
Yeah, yeah. And then there could be those attachments where like you really do want ill will on an ex or somebody that you feel had done you wrong, and you will like intentionally set these intentions towards this person, and you're sending that energetic cord, and that person could be walking through life and they have no idea that you're doing this, and then all of a sudden like things start to happen in their life because maybe they're not detaching cords every day, maybe they're have no idea what we're talking about today and they're just going through life, and then all of a sudden like things just things happen to them that like maybe aren't of their highest good. I'm not going to throw out anything into the out there about what it could be, but let's just say maybe it's not into the highest good, or it maybe they just they keep getting into a relationship and things are going great, and then all of a sudden something happens and they're like, where did this come from? Like, what happened here? Like, and why does this pattern keep repeating? And maybe it is this attachment you still have to an ex that you haven't caught detached from, and it could just keep happening because if your ex is constantly thinking of you, and it's just like throwing out there. And this could be a
Yeah.
situation like this could be like a situation that happened, like you could be just reliving that same situation, so you're attaching your energetic cord to that situation and everybody involved in that situation, like a car accident or something along those lines.
Yeah, and this actually really goes down into the subconscious mind too. It's like all of those things that like we attach to. So there was one thing that you said a while ago, and it was really about we're not afraid of love. We're afraid of the hurt that we felt, and we made it about love. But it really has nothing to do with love. It's
Hmm.
really about that time where you got hurt. And this is why, growing up in high school and stuff, you would always hear like, fuck love, like fuck that, like I don't want to feel feelings, like all of those things. I used to be that type of person too. Like I don't want to feel feelings anymore, but it's because of like a past thing, and seeing so many people break up and so many bad relationships that you tie onto that, and you latch yourself onto this cord of fuck love. And it's really not about the love. It's really about that feeling that happened when you got hurt.
Yeah.
And it's really about going back and realizing where that happened so you can start healing that part so that you can continue to have more love.
Yeah, absolutely. And in that, also in that subconscious mind, like you could have had a relationship where it like ended, and you don't feel like there's anything around it, and it's just like, yeah, it was just that was just a relationship, it was what it was, like, and you don't think about it anymore, and you put it out of your mind and you go through your life, and then maybe there's some type of pattern in relationships, and I'm not just talking about girlfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. I think I covered almost all of them. um, I'm not talking romantic relationships. This could be even relationships with other people, and maybe you start to notice a pattern that's happening, and you reflect back on this pattern, and it brings you back to this relationship that happened like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years, whatever it is, and you're like, really, like I didn't feel like, but subconsciously there was something in there that was implanted that had been nagging at you. So maybe you push it down, like we push down our feelings, we push this into down deep down into your mind, but your subconscious is still energetically attached to it, and it's bringing that forward in everything that you do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. Like, okay, the thing is, like, with relationships, like, we have relationships with everything.
Hmm.
And that is the core that we're connecting to. It's like our relationship with our friends, or why we can't have friends. Like that story that we tell ourselves why we can't have friends, but that's based off of something in the past. Like that's based off something that you've experienced, that you've seen, maybe even in movies. Like maybe you haven't even experienced it yourself, but you've seen it so many times replay that it's now subconsciously engraved in you. And so now you have this like cord that's connecting you to that not so good relationship with friends or
Yep.
stuff like that. Like it could be anything. And this happens with money, this happens with things, this happens with people, it happens with everything.
Because we have relationships, like you said, with all those things.
Yeah.
And you could do something about it.
Yeah.
You can really do something about it. And I was having this conversation with my sister beforehand, because I woke up, had this really weird dream. I'm not getting into the dream, but I woke up this dream, and when I came out of the dream, I was like, okay, I have to go into the healing session with myself. So I went into a healing session with myself, and I start cutting cords, and I was cutting like really deep cords. I could like see them. They were like this big. And I'm like, this is like 5 years old, and it's still here. And I've done cord cutting with this person, and I've done things. And my sister said to me, like, well, how is that still happening? Like, how is that still connected? I said, because we are still tied. We are still tied to there. We still have a tie. The condo I live in, we bought together, and her name is still on the mortgage because I can't get it off the mortgage, you know, unless I refinance, and that's a whole nother issue, but that's not something that is able to happen at this moment. So, and there's some other things that we still have this energetic tie to. So I said, what I have to do is come up with a better ritual to do, so that when certain things happen, I do this ritual to cut these cords, because that's still an energetic cord that's happening. So I have to do a better job of dissolving that cord. And if she is still thinking about me and still has some ill feelings towards me, or feels like she's deserving of something that I have, and she keeps pulling on that, she keeps sending that cord to me and pulling on me. And that's why it's important to dissolve and cut cords every day. And sometimes you do have to do a little bit more with certain things than other things to work on them and dissolve them.
Mhm.
And I'll give you some tips and tools in a little bit about that.
It's interesting. You know, I was just like, when you were talking about that, it's interesting because, like, when I think about the muscles, they're really strands and there are like cords. So it's like, how are we not connected? Like, everything's really connected. Like, your muscles, they end up like this when you ignore them, when you don't, give them that love that they need, or when you don't release certain things, they get really thick. They get like you said, like huge, like that.
Yeah,
They clump up together and they're really just these tiny strands
yeah,
in your muscle fibers. Those are your muscle fibers, tiny strands. And then when you have those knots, it's clumped up like this. So it's so interesting. Like and it has to do with like cutting cords too, because there's something that you're stressed about, that you're connected to, that you're allowing that energy to build up rather than release.
absolutely. So true. So true. And to give like just like a simpler version, in case somebody's like really listening to us and like, okay, I'm not maybe quite getting this, or how does this apply more to like everyday experiences. But so like your siblings, you have these attachments to, like twins. Like you've heard those stories where a twin knew something happened to their other twin before they even found out, because they felt it in themselves, because they have a special energetic bond together. Um, and so they, you feel this. How about your kids? Have you ever had this moment around where you have kids and they're having a fit, and then all of a sudden you're like yelling back at them? And if you ever like took yourself out of the body and you looked and you're like, you could look at it and go, oh my God, I'm acting like my child. Because that energetic cord, you're pulling on that, on their energy. And so then you're starting to become that, 3-year-old who's having a tantrum, and that's why you're acting like them, yelling back at them.
Mhm.
So cord cutting is not about saying that you don't love people. This is like a misconception. Like, people are like, I don't want to cut the cords because then I won't feel that person. Well, that's true, but not true. You still have your own feelings about that person, but you're not taking on that person's feelings, whatever they are. Because whatever that person is feeling, then you start to make it about you. And it might have nothing to do with you. Like your child having a tantrum might be because they have a toothache and they just don't even realize it's a toothache, and they're just like have this pain, because toothaches, they travel everywhere, and they're just having this tantrum. And then you're like, you're making whatever it is what they're feeling about you, like you're not good enough, you can't comfort them, you don't know what's going, they're in pain, and this pain is because they're mad at me. And there's a million things that we start to do. And that's why it's important to like cut the cord so that you stay in your own energy and you have your feelings about whoever it is around you, but you're not taking on all their feelings, because that wears you down, and that adds extra stress into your physical, emotional, energetic, and spiritual body.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because this sometimes we carry it on for years, years and years and years, carrying all that stuff. So like one of the things when you were talking, like one of the things that came to my mind was like, okay, imagine all of growing up with parents that grew up in poverty, right?
Mhm.
So if we go back into like all of those emotions that they had, we're somehow connected to those emotions because we've allowed, there's stories that we make up, right? So there's stories that we as children make about our parents growing up in poverty, or even like even if they have a financial abundance, like we still make a story about it and we connect ourselves to their story about money. And so like one of the things that say, okay, my mom thought, I'm just throwing this out there, it's not real, but like my mom, let's say just my mom thought that money was this horrible thing, that it doesn't grow on trees and all of these things. So then now I take on that story, I attach myself to the cords that my mom had created, right? I attach myself to them and I carry them through my life, thinking that money is this evil thing, that money can't grow on trees, that I can't find money anywhere. And I carry it for so long until I decide to cut that cord and say, you know what, this isn't serving me and I need to cut this right now. And this really does go beyond like just the money thing. This goes beyond like, this goes into the feelings and like what we make things feel. So like let's say my daughter right now probably like she probably feels like um oh, my mom thinks that I'm blank and blank, and she'll like make up this story and like she'll create that story, and now she's attached, like we're attached, because every time she looks at me she takes on the story of whatever she created, and that emotion comes up and she carries that until she decides to cut that cord too. Like
Mhm.
I can cut the cords, but she can cut the cords too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can cut your cords for your children too. You can protect them and you can cut their cords, and that until they're 18, they're no longer under they consider it adult. But and energy's everywhere. We leave an energetic blueprint wherever you go. You ever like punch the pillow and you've indented that pillow. And then maybe you come back like an hour later and the pillow starts to change because the energy starts to dissipate. So the pillow kind of starts to go back to its form. Also depends on what kind of pillow it is. But like, you do this, or if you ever can take a slow motion picture of a boxer hitting a pad and then releasing, you can see it indent and start to come back. And that's what we do, like our energy. We leave like these essence, these pieces of our energy wherever we go. So when you walk into the room, depending on the type of room, like you're not only just feeling the energy around of the people in there, you're feeling the remnants of the energies that's still lingering around there. That's why we clear spaces, right? We bird stage, we call in the angels, we clear the spaces because we want to clear out that energy that's lingering around. Because as that goes on, it starts to attach to us and wear down. And that could even like begin to develop these cords of attachment, because if somebody is in there and, they're thinking about something else, like, they really want to be happy and you're happy, it's like, oh, it just like attached to you. And now you have this attachment to that person. It's so amazing how these things happen. And there's so much that we can do. And we talked about protection a few weeks ago, I think, with the mindset and everything. And those things are really big. But like just clearing your energy, cutting those cords. And there's different levels. So like you can, like we talked about this at the protection, calling on Archangel Michael. You can go in the shower and imagine yourself clearing the energy and cutting away the cords. You can go send clearing energy, and you can ask the angels to clear a space that you're going into. Let's say you're going into this big conference and you don't want to take on everybody's, be attached to all these cords and take on these energy. You can even ask to clear the space. But when it comes to like cutting cords and cutting cords of like you do it every day. You cut cords every day.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly try to.
Almost. Yeah, if I don't do it in the morning, then I do whenever I do my meditations. But I try to do it every morning.
And when you cut cords, do you cut cords? You call in Archangel Michael or to cut cords, or is it different every time?
I think it's different every time because like sometimes I do call on the angels, and then sometimes like you've taught me about the dragon energy. I do that. Yeah, and then sometimes I just ask like my ancestors to just like cut cords for me too.
Yeah. Dragon energy is good. The fire dragon loves to come in,
Mm-hmm.
cut
That's
away any lower vibrational energies that's surrounding you. So you can ask to have you can also get specific to cords too, like cut away the cord of my son, especially if there's like a specific cord. Let's say your son is the baby and like you want to cut and maybe he's the baby because he's the youngest, but like now he is maybe 8 years old, and you still find yourself kind of getting back and treating him like that baby because that's the cord attachment that you still have. So you can actually cut the cord of him being a baby, so and your attachment to him still being considered the baby and having to do everything for him so that he can begin to grow up into the young man that he actually is.
that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm just throwing like that one out there, but like it's those type of situations. So you can get really specific in the cords that you're looking to cut to, not
Mm.
just cutting away cords of any lower vibrational energies, or any energies of people, places, the things that are no longer serving you, you can actually begin to get specific in the cords that you um, are looking to cut, and asking specific, cut my cord to this person with the relationship that they have to money. Like you can like get that specific and cut those cords. And if you
Yeah.
like it, man, hindsight is 2020, right? When you have that, like, I'm about to tell you something that's like, oh my God, like, why wasn't I doing it? If you like also have somebody, and it's funny because when I had the chat about Mars and retrograde with Ursula, she said you could have frenemies show back up, right? Is one of the things that she said. Well, when you hear that, you're like, think you're going to cross paths with them, right? Or you're going to hear from them or something like that. But it doesn't always have to be that way. It could be somebody mentioned them in conversation, or they mentioned that person's name or that thing's name, or that, in conversation, or memories or something keeps coming up. And then it's like, when that happens, that's usually a cord that has developed again, that
Yeah.
needs to be attached and dissolved.
Yeah, and this is really important because I feel like people aren't aware that they can cut these cords and start forgiving themselves for all of these things. When those memories come back up, it's there to like show you that there needs to be some healing in that area. And if it makes you feel a certain type of way, definitely it's like a sign for you to like cut that cord.
Yeah.
And
I,
it's something that we can do.
I love that you said forgiveness, because that was like part of the thing too. So when you do cut these cords and ask them to be taken away, whether you're working with Archangel Michael or Archangel Raphael or Gabriel or the dragons, or you're just bringing in the light, or you're bringing whatever it is, whatever you feel called to do, there's really, it's all about you. Like, we can give you the tools, but making it your own and choosing your own words and following your own higher self, your own intuition, is really the most powerful thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
I can write you affirmations like crazy. I can give you word by word what to say, but when it comes from your heart, that's where it's the most powerful.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that because like in my Ho'oponopono massage right now, like it's really about like, it's mostly about cutting cords with right now I've had a lot of like breakups. So it was a lot of cutting cords with that person, with yourself, with that thing that you're attached to, because there's something there that keeps on pulling you into those kind of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And it's subconsciously, you're not aware of it until you're going through things. And then you're like, this keeps on repeating. I don't want it to repeat. What can I do? Until you're in that state, like you don't really notice things.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things for my Ho'oponopono massage is like, I make people, I don't make them, but like I ask for them to write down everything that they want to forgive, right? Everything that they want to release. And whatever comes up, that's them. Like it's coming from their heart. It's coming from them. It's like what they want to release. That's what I need. Like not what I think is. Yes, it's what I think is best for you, but also this is you. I'm here for you, and I want you to release whatever needs to be released. And the only person that can give me that is the person that's in front of me, my client.
Absolutely. That's so true. And part of the cutting the cords is that forgiveness part. And when you're cutting them and sending them back and dissolving them, you always want to do it with love. Remember, we always remember the love of attraction.
Yeah,
That was not
one.
intentional. That just how it came out, and I love that, the love of attraction.
Yes.
I love how these things just come through. But the law of attraction, whatever you put out comes back. So if you're sending something back in hate, you're going to get more hate back. So always do it in the highest good with the highest intentions. And I said mine was this really big cord that came out. So imagine this: if you detach this, now you have this void in within you, and there's an opportunity for you to fill up that void with whatever you want. And you can bring in joy, love, happiness. You can call on those energy. You can call on specific things. You're releasing a relationship, and what kind of relationship do you want to bring in? Or you can put a crystal. You can use crystallized energy and put a crystal within that void of where that cord was, to help you heal that and bring in that energy, that what you want. So maybe like a cord that you cut to a relationship, maybe that cord was maybe attached, let's say, near your kidneys, but in that relationship, maybe one of the things was your throat had closed up because you didn't express the true version of yourself. So maybe in that void, you put a blue agate, or maybe you put a lapis lazuli, so that you can like have that crystallized energy to help you clear that part of your throat chakra. So there's a lot of different layers that you can do, and following your heart and your intuition is really important. And when you're done with this, then you can do your Ho'oponopono, or you can
Mm-hmm.
do it during, but and find the gratitude. This is where kind of my thing that I like to add, and I don't know if I've heard it from, but like, find the gratitude. Like, thank you. Like, that's part of Ho'oponopono, is like, please forgive me, I'm sorry, thank you. And instead of just saying the thank you part, I mean, you can add everything, like, please forgive me for X, Y, and Z. I am sorry for X, Y, and Z. Thank you for X, Y, and Z. I love you. Like, you can, like, the Ho'oponopono can just be those 4 words, or you can expand it to even more than that. But you could be grateful. Like, I am so grateful for what you showed me. I am so grateful to be able to release this so I can step into the true person who I am. Be in that gratitude, because that's going to lift and raise that vibration.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you do like a lot of timeline things too. I think you've done some on me. We do a lot of time in NLP. We do a lot of timeline things, and it's really about not necessarily, yes, cutting that cord of that thing, but it's also remembering that it's so that it no longer, takes over. It's like, yes, you can remember that event, but when you cut that cord, it doesn't have that same feeling like that it brought you.
Yeah, I had somebody yesterday that I was working, and we were clearing something out from his childhood. And it was like, do I need to go and remember that? I said, no. I said, we're just healing it now. I said, why do you want to go back and remember it? Like, we're letting it go. We're releasing it. You don't need to know all the details. And if there's something that you need to know, it will be revealed to you when you are ready.
Mm.
And that may be another deeper level of healing that you have to go through.
Yeah. And sometimes, sometimes we do this to ourselves where it's almost like we're attached to the hurt and we like feeling it. So we go back into that story and we relive it
Mm-hmm.
rather than heal it.
Yep.
And that happens often.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we say, it's hard to love. It's hard to love myself, because we feel that the hurt is easier.
Yep.
My question is it really easier?
Hmm. Or are you just conditioned to feeling it?
Hmm. Yeah. And it happens that way with happiness too.
Hmm.
Like you could be happy. Like I'm happy in my life. I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy um, being by myself. Like I'm happy even though I don't have a partner. I'm happy. And I can choose to be in this happiness, this state of happiness that I am. Or I can continue to grow and develop because I believe that there's more happiness to have and that I want to be as happy as I can be. But we get to this state sometimes where we're happy, or some people like to call it contentment. We get happy with our happiness, whatever that is. And we don't want to step out of our comfort zone. We don't want to take that next step because we're afraid that we're going to lose this happiness, and the happiness that we're going to gain isn't going to be as good as the one we have. Or in that happiness, something might happen and we might lose part of that happiness, and we might come back down to this happiness that we have, but because we lost that other happiness, there's this sadness. But then you can go back and get even more happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we get, I don't want to say complacent in life, but we get where we feel like whatever we have is the only thing that we can have, and we can't have anymore. We can.
Hmm. Yeah.
Definitely can.
Yeah. So, what do you have? Well, I think you pretty much explained everything, like what they can do to release and stuff. There's a lot that you can do to cut cords, but it's really just visualizing of the visualizing of cutting the cords too.
Yeah. And I do, like, for me it's like different. Sometimes it's like pulling the cord out, like pulling it, and sometimes it's just like taking the scissors and cutting them. It really also depends on what I'm working on. Like if it's something really deep, like I want to get to the roots of it. So sometimes I find like the cutting part leaves part of it in there.
It's
Um,
interesting because I was just thinking about that too, because sometimes like I just like imagine it like burning down, right?
uh-huh.
I imagine the cords burning, but then I'm like, it probably like there's still stuff there.
Yeah, I mean that's also why like I will like seal it with something or call in what I want and like that to help like dissipate anything that might be with still in there, like bring in the crystals and things like that. But get creative. And if you're finding like you're like I keep cutting the cords and you're imagining that like scissors are cutting the cords and you're like still feeling this attachment, maybe there's something else. But maybe it's bigger. Like so like this cord that I have to the condo, like there there might be a certain ritual or ceremony which I have not quite come up with that I might have to add into it. So like let's say you're divorced and you're sending an alimony check or a child support check to your ex. So there's this constant attachment to it, right? That you have to send this money or whatever to um, you can come up with something to help you release that energy, that cord. Like be in gratitude. Um, with this cord, I am dissolving all my energies attached to it and like sending it off so that there's no attachment. You're cutting the attachment to what you're sending. And this way, there's no way that that attachment can come back to you. Things
Mm,
like that. Because sometimes we have to like stay connected to people that maybe we don't wish we can stay connected to for other circumstances. Maybe they're family members, maybe you're divorced, maybe you um you have to drive past a certain place all the time that something happened, and so come up with these little rituals to help you not absorb that energy.
yeah, yeah. There's this thing that we do in NLP too, and it's tapping. So we start off with this. and it like shakes up the energy that's in your body as well. Not just like the energetic, but like whatever's showing up in your body. And it's like this, then you go, there's like different points, and then you just keep on hitting them a couple times until you release that energy. And they say like you got to drink lots of water to release it even more.
Yeah. Yeah. Water is amazing.
Yeah.
We're made up a lot of water. We're mostly water.
Earth is mostly water.
Yeah. So, all right. Oh my goodness. It's time to go. It's been
Yeah.
such a great chat. I didn't realize how late it got.
All right, everybody. You can find us at Magical Tea Talks Coffee 2 podcast, and you can email us if you want us to talk about any topics, or send us a message individually. I'm CinderellaSpa.com and Cinderella Spa on Instagram.
And I'm Valeri McLaughlin, Intuitive Heart Healer on Facebook. I have an Intuitive Heart Healer group. My website is intuitivehearthealer.com, and on Instagram, I'm Intuitive Heart Healer. Until next time, everybody, go out and spread some love.